Good evening and welcome to Biz RoundUp. I'm Tamiru Nimsal, and we at Tart Television bring you a collection of business highlights. Let's have a look at the headlines. President stresses the importance of sticking to the IMF agreement. Maldives becomes the second largest source of tourists to Sri Lanka. Ceylon Chamber of Commerce explores investment opportunities from Vietnam. News in detail. The International Monetary Fund has scheduled the 12th of this month for its executive board to take up Sri Lanka's program review. State Minister for Finance Shehan Semasinghe announces that the session will evaluate Sri Lanka's economic policies and reform progress. State Minister for Finance Shehan Semasinghe recently said that Sri Lanka is confident of wrapping up debt talks in time for the International Monetary Fund to consider the next review of the island's program. Minister Semasinghe told the reporters that the government has a strong conviction that within our timelines to do the job. He also added that discussions on converting in-principle deals with official creditors into MOUs are progressing smoothly and according to the due schedules. He further added that they would open the second round of negotiations with the bondholders while the advisors of bondholders and government are also actively engaging in the proceedings. State Minister also said that the government look forward for continued support of all countries for a successful review to unlock the third tranche, which will further enhance economic stability, growth and reform efforts. Sri Lanka is currently finalizing MOUs with official creditors and are also in talks with the IMF. The Executive Board will consider both the program review and Article 4 consultation. President Ranil Wickremesinghe said that the agreement with the IMF has clearly stated that the benefits of the economic development must trickle down to the underprivileged rural communities in the country. The President also said that in order to uplift the multidimensional poverty which has gone up, rural communities must get connectivity to the market. President Wickremesinghe said this speaking at an event held in Colombo recently.
The multidimensional poverty in our country has gone up from about 15% in 2019 to over 25%. Now, we are also committed to bringing it down to 10% by 2032. The agreements we've signed with the IMF is not merely a question of statistics, but as the economy develops, to ensure that it reaches the poorest of the poor, and therefore to bring down the multidimensional poverty to 10%. And we intend, I think Sri Lanka intends to keep that target, which means the bulk of the poor, bulk who are affected, do not live in the urban area. They live in the rural area. So therefore, it's connectivity projects like this which help us to ensure that we reach this target. And no doubt, as this has shown, economic benefits and the social benefits are such that the impact will be seen within 5 years of the completion of the bridges. In this way, I have to also thank the Netherlands government for having contributed to these projects, and also together with the ambassador, we've opened 4 hospitals in the northern area, in places like Point Pedro and Mankulam, where you have catered to different communities. So together, the 2 projects are 2 projects which help to uplift Sri Lanka's communities living in backward area. When I became the president, I was of the view that these 2 projects should go ahead. It should have its impact where it was needed most.
State Minister for Finance Shehan Semasinghe said that the approval of the IMF Executive Board at the upcoming review to provide the third tranche of the extended fund facility will be a crucial juncture in determining the economic trajectory of the nation. The State Minister emphasized that a positive review will help achieve the targeted 3% growth for the year and also aid in the ongoing debt restructuring talks with the bilateral creditors and private bondholders. The State Minister said this speaking to the media at a press conference held in Colombo recently.
තුන්වෙනි වාරිකය ලබා ගැනීම සඳහා විධායක මණ්ඩලයේ අනුමැතිය අවශ්‍ය වෙලා තියෙන අවස්ථාවක්. ඒ අනුව අනුමැතිය ලැබෙවි කියන විශ්වාසය තුල අපි කටයුතු කරනවා. ඒ අනුමත වීමත් සමගම අපිට ඩොලර් මිලියන 330ක තුන්වෙනි වාරිකය නිදහස් කර ගැනීම සඳහා අවශ්‍ය පහසුකම ලැබෙනවා. ඒ වගේම මේ මුදල් කියන කාරණාවෙන් එහාට ගියපු පණිවිඩයක් ජාත්‍යන්තරයට සහ දේශීය වශයෙන් ආර්ථිකය තවදුරටත් ශක්තිමත් වීමට බලපෑමක් ඇති වෙනවා. ආර්ථිකයේ ස්ථාවරත්වය තවදුරටත් වේගෙන් වැඩි වීමටත් ඒ වගේම අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ 103ක ආර්ථික වර්ධන වේගයක් මේ අවුරුද්ද තුල ලබා ගැනීමට. ඒ 103ක ආර්ථික වර්ධන වේගය 2024 වර්ෂයේදී ලබා ගැනීම තවදුරටත් පහසු කරන කාර්යයක් බවට පත් වෙනවා. එතනින් එහාට ගිහිල්ලා මෙතෙක් අපි සිදු කරන ආර්ථික ප්‍රතිසංස්කරණ ක්‍රියාවලිය තවදුරටත් අඛණ්ඩව ශක්තිමත්ව ඉදිරියට ගෙන යාම සඳහා විශ්වාසයක් ගොඩනගෙනවා. සමාලෝචනය සම්බන්ධයෙන් විධායක මණ්ඩලය රැස් වෙලා සාකච්ඡා කරලා අපිට ධනාත්මක අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන පණිවිඩය ලැබීම මම හිතන්නේ ඊටාම වැදගත් වේවි. මොකද අපි මේ වෙනකොට ණය ප්‍රතිහෝගතකරණයේ අවසාන අදියරේ ඉන්නේ. ද්විපාර්ශ්වික ණය හිමියන් සමග අපේ මූලික එකඟතාව ඇවිල්ලා ඒ මූලික එකඟතාව අවබෝධතා ගිවිසුම් බවට පරිවර්තනය කිරීමේ අවසාන අදියරේ තමයි අපි මේ වෙනකොට ඉන්නේ. එතනින් එහාට ගිහිල්ලා අපි පෞද්ගලික බැඳුම් කර හිමියන් සමග අවබෝධ එකඟතාවයකට පැමිණීමට මේ වාරිකය අනුමත කර ගැනීම විශාල ශක්තියක් සහ එය ඉක්මන් කර ගැනීමට පිටුවහලක් බවට පත් වෙනවා.
The central bank has released data showing a mixed performance in April, with both exports and imports experiencing month-on-month declines but growing year-on-year. Earnings from merchandise exports rose by 3.4% to $878 million in April 2024 compared to $849 million in April 2023. On the import front, expenditure saw a marginal increase of 0.3%, reaching $1,435 million in April 2024, up from $1,431 million in April 2023. For the first 4 months of 2024, exports were up by 5.5%, totaling $4 billion, while imports increased by 9.5% to $5.8 billion. Industrial exports saw the most significant growth, primarily due to increased volumes of bunkering and aviation fuel. Agricultural exports improved as well, driven by higher volumes of coconut-related products and tea, despite a decline in spice exports. On the import side, expenditure on investment goods contributed to the increase in import expenditure, while intermediate and consumer goods saw declines. The export volume index increased by 5%, while the unit value index declined by 1.5%, indicating that higher export volumes drove the increase in export earnings. Similarly, the import value index improved by 11.7%, while the unit value index declined by 10.2%, showing that the increase in import expenditure was also volume driven. Stay tuned. We will return after the short commercial break. Welcome back after the break. Headline inflation, as measured by the year-on-year change in the Colombo Consumer Price Index, decelerated to 0.9% in May from 1.5% in April. Central Bank said this deceleration in the headline inflation is broadly in line with its projections. Prices of the items in the food category on year-on-year basis remained unchanged in May. Nevertheless, non-food inflation accelerated to 1.3% in May from 0.9% in April. Central Bank announces that on a month-on-month basis, inflation continued to decline. The monthly change of CCPI recorded minus 0.57% in May due to the price decrease of 0.37% observed in the items of food category and the price decrease of 0.2% observed in the items of non-food category. Core inflation, which reflects the underlying inflation trends in the economy, accelerated marginally to 3.5% in May from 3.4% in April. Central Bank statement also added that in the near term, inflation is likely to be below the target level of 5% as per the latest available data, although some upside risks remain. It further explains that inflation is expected to align with and remain around the target level over the medium term, supported by appropriate policy measures. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka's intervention in the forex market has seen net purchases amounting to $420 million in April, boosting the total for the first 4 months of the year to $1.6 billion. The central bank's high net purchases have been a key driver for the increase in gross official reserves, which rose to $5.5 billion by the end of April 2024. This figure includes a swap facility from the People's Bank of China, valued at approximately $1.5 billion, although it comes with certain conditionalities on its usability. According to the central bank, the substantial net purchases of foreign exchange from the domestic market were the primary reason for this significant boost in reserves. The import coverage of these gross official reserves, including the PBOC swap, has remained robust, staying above 3 months of imports since December 2023. As of the end of April 2024, the import coverage stood at 3.8 months. The Greater Mekong Business Council of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce consulted the ambassador of Vietnam to Sri Lanka, Ho Thi Tang Krak, aiming to boost production, increase exports and attract Vietnamese investments into Sri Lanka. The meeting between the SLG Embassy and Ambassador Krak was held in Colombo recently. During the discussion, investment in agricultural production and processing was a major focus, with the Council citing Vietnam's successful models as examples. Recognizing the potential in tourism, the Council proposed initiatives to attract more Vietnamese tourists to Sri Lanka. Given Sri Lanka's heavy reliance on pharmaceutical imports, the Council also identified this sector as a priority for investment. The potential for joint ventures in construction and infrastructure projects was discussed, with Sri Lanka's need for modern infrastructure presenting an attractive opportunity for Vietnamese investors. Her Excellency Ho Thi Tang Krak expressed strong commitment to bringing more business delegations to Sri Lanka to explore potential avenues for strengthening economic ties. Stay tuned. We will return after this short commercial break. Welcome back after the break. The Maldives became the second largest source of tourists to Sri Lanka in May. This report came amid concerns that a bilateral visa exemption deal may be violated after VFS Global, a private outsourcing contractor, started charging fees. In the first 30 days of May, Sri Lanka has welcomed 108,656 tourists, up 30% from 83,309 a year earlier. A controversial deal with VFS Global, which let foreigners and outsourced workers manning immigration point at the main airport, also resulted in a user-unfriendly website, as well as visas rising to $107 from $51. Amid the controversy over VFS charges, Maldives was listed as the second largest source of tourists to Sri Lanka in the first 30 days of May, with 7,984 tourists overtaking British visitors at 7,844. Sri Lanka's tourist arrivals topped 200,000 in the first quarter, growing around 100%. In April, considered the start of the off-season, arrivals were 148,867, but still up 41% from last year. In May, there were 108,665. Growth has faltered to 30%, with numbers barely above last year in the final week. Though a fight back by Tourism Minister Harin Fernando against the deal led to a $50 visa being reintroduced, the problems with the user-unfriendly website compared to the earlier easy-to-use one remain, with complaints continuing in online forums. A controversy has also blown up between Sri Lanka and Maldives after VFS Global started charging fees from Maldives visitors. Sri Lanka has a reciprocal visa exemption arrangement with the Maldives, and there are fears that VFS-style fees may be slapped on Sri Lankans, who may also face the hassle of getting VFS-style visa. At the moment, Maldives only requires online disembarkation information to be filled when a Sri Lankan visits. Sri Lanka and Turkmenistan marked a new chapter in bilateral relations, exploring cooperation in parliamentary engagements, economic sectors, energy, transport and education. The discussions with representatives from both nations engaging in comprehensive discussions across various sectors was held virtually at the Foreign Ministry premises last week. In the economic domain, the dialogue focused on potential investment opportunities and collaboration in the oil and gas, textile and apparel, agriculture, food processing, pharmaceutical and IT sectors. The possibility of organizing a Turkmen-Sri Lanka business forum was proposed to facilitate business connections between the two countries. Discussions also encompassed other areas of cooperation such as culture, art, sport, tourism and education, highlighting the multifaceted nature of the bilateral relationship. The consultations concluded with a proposal for the next round of Foreign Office consultations between Sri Lanka and Turkmenistan to be convened in January 2025. Sinopec Lanka Energy inaugurated its first renovated filling station at the Trans-Sri Lanka filling station in Navgamu, marking a major milestone on the company's first anniversary since entering Sri Lanka. After 7 months of operation across all 150 stations, this newly renovated station underscores Sinopec's long-term commitment to revitalizing the country's energy sector. The company has been actively investing in renovation projects, upgrading facilities, and improving health, safety, and environmental standards to support the sustained growth of its dealers and partners. Sinopec Energy Lanka General Manager Wang Haini said that Sinopec is devoted to setting high standards in Sri Lanka's petroleum industry. Looking ahead, Sinopec plans to renovate the remaining 149 filling stations over the next 3 years and explore opportunities for 50 brand new stations. Sinopec is also set to establish a vocational training and qualification system for fuel station staff to develop a more skilled workforce. Additionally, a comprehensive customer service center equipped with support in multiple languages will be introduced to effectively address inquiries from customers and dealers. With that, we wind up for today. For this and more, subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. See you tomorrow with State of Business at 7:45 p.m. Take care and good night.